Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. I want to tell you a story today about something that very serious that happened to me some years ago. I was standing in the airport in Bangkok with my girlfriend and we were traveling back to the UK for a short holiday when everything changed. Within minutes I'd been detained and I didn't know why. As far as I knew I had done no wrong, yet I still got arrested. But to understand exactly what happened, then I have to go back in time a little bit. Now just let me tell you now, I left school when I was 16 years old, some years ago I know, but I joined the Royal Navy in the UK, the military part, and as a trainee engineer, and I spent many years there traveling the world. When I left the Navy, I got a job with a Norwegian shipbuilder who were building offshore supply vessels. And as part of that job, I would travel regularly to Singapore. When I went to Singapore, I always stayed in the same hotel, and consequently, I met a couple of Australian engineers that worked in Singapore, and they were staying in the hotel. And whenever I arrived, we used to have a few drinks together in the hotel bar, sometimes to the early hours of the morning, as you can imagine. And on the last visit that I went there and met them, they were talking about something that I was listening to, but I didn't really fully comprehend what they were talking about. It was about an engineer that worked for their company that was working in Thailand and had a serious problem and was having to leave the job. And they were having trouble finding a suitable engineer to take the job in Thailand. Well, one of them, jokingly I think, said to me, "Sandy, would you fancy a job working in Thailand?" Would I fancy a job in Thailand? Yes, it sounds interesting anyway. Are you being serious? So if you want it, he said, give me your CV, I'll send it down to my boss. He's urgently looking for somebody. Wow, okay. So when I went back to my room, I emailed them my CV. And the next morning, I was traveling back to the UK, which was a Saturday morning, traveling back to the UK. I got back there on the Sunday morning. Just been home a few hours when I got a phone call from Australia. And it was the director of the company, a guy called John. He was phoning me to ask me if I was serious about being interested in the job in Thailand. I said I did have an interest, it sounded interesting, and he suggested that we meet in Singapore on the Wednesday. I said, listen, John, I said, I've just travelled back from Singapore yesterday and just got home. He said, well, I'll send you a first class ticket up and you can return and you come down and meet me Wednesday. We'll discuss it over. And if it's of interest to you, then we'll even have a trip up to Thailand and I'll show you what the job's more about and you can meet the other participating people in the company there. Well, as luck would have it actually, I was due holidays and I'd already applied for them because I'd just been down in the Far East for 2 or 3 weeks, and I'd applied for a holiday when I came home. It was a 3-week period that I'd asked to have off. So there was no hindrance that way. So yes, I said, okay, John, let's give it a go. I'll come down and see you. Well, within a couple of hours, I'd got the ticket to fly down on Tuesday and arrive in Singapore on Tuesday night, and a hotel booking as well. So fantastic. And I went off to meet him. Well, on the Wednesday we met up and he outlined what had happened. Apparently the engineer that was there had a little relationship going on with a Thai lady.
You spin beautifully. Thank you. I'm really enjoying this.
And his wife had given him the dictate, either Thailand working or your marriage. So he put in his resignation and wanted to go back to Australia and live his life out there. So they were desperate. The project had started, but they didn't have an engineer in situ that could do the necessary job. The job was as a general manager, and I thought, yeah, it's interesting. Everything else was good. The remuneration package and all the add-ons, etc., all sounded good. So I said, yes, I am interested. Well, on the Friday of that week, we were up in Thailand visiting the factory where things were going on. Now, this was a joint Thai-Australian venture. Two shareholders, John from the Australia side, Brisbane, and the Thai director in a company in Bangkok. Now, this Thai director, he had several companies. He was quite a big guy in Thailand, actually. But there was another director that worked for him, and his responsibility as far as this new startup was concerned was to give whoever was appointed by the Australian guy, i.e. me, that he would, the Thai director, would give any assistance required to advise on how things are done in Thailand. So yeah, it was all good. Went to the factory, saw it all there. There was 150 employees in the manufacturing, engineers and assistants, etc. There was 12 office staff, and that was it. We went to meet the two Thai directors in Bangkok. Now, I reported directly to the Australian side. Now, I was actually paid by the Australian side and not by the Thai side. And I was responsible also, as well as doing what was required in the company, in the manufacturing, which incidentally was everything. I had to do, get all the technical details, supervise the work, order up all the materials, make sure all the drawings were amended, etc. I had the full package to do. Fortunately, they gave me a very important lady to work with.
Hello, Mr. Sandy. My name is Cobb. I am your assistant.
Young girl, not long finished in university. Her name was Cobb, and she turned out to be absolutely essential because she was my voice between me and everybody else in the company, because virtually no one else in the company could speak English, and I couldn't speak Thai. One little problem with that was when I started having to have technical talks with the engineers on the floor, etc. Although Cobb was very good in English, when it came to technical talking, it didn't work out so well because she couldn't fully understand the technicalities of what I was saying. So it was a good thing, actually, because what it forced me to do was to learn how to speak a good level of Thai very, very quickly. And in the end, I could read, write, and speak Thai quite well. And that's always been a very positive aspect for me, even up to today. Now, the conditions behind me being hired was that I had to work a 6-month probationary period, and then I'd be given a 5-year contract to do the job. Now, when John took me to meet the two Thai directors at the beginning, I sensed a little bit of resentment from his shared director. I don't know why, but I just kind of sensed that he wasn't too happy with my appointment and or the way the thing was getting set up. But he didn't say anything, but I just had a feeling that it wasn't quite right. Another person that I should mention at this point was a trainee engineer I was given, and this guy was appointed by the Thai people in Bangkok to come and work with me. And I think, I know the main objective of him being positioned as he was to learn from me and to find out everything I was doing and to watch carefully. And with the probability that at the end of my 5-year contract, he would take over and run the run the company. And I had no real problem with that. I could understand that. And for 5 years there, 5.5 years actually, it was going to be a wonderful, wonderful job. Or so I thought. Now, accommodation-wise, they put me in a very, very beautiful hotel for my probationary period. It was called the Ambassador City, and it was situated very close to Pattaya, and it was a fantastic hotel. I will put a small video preview on this to let you see the sort of place it was, but it had I was put in a top room as well, but it had several restaurants, several nationality restaurants, had 5 swimming pools, it had zoological gardens, and it really was exquisite. And when I used to sit in the evenings and have my meal down at a restaurant, a Thai restaurant at the beach, I used to think, this really is paradise here. And it was a beautiful hotel. Once my probationary period was complete and my contract, 5-year contract was confirmed, then I was given the option to get a living allowance where I could go and live where I wanted to. I could rent someplace or do whatever, and it was up to me then what I wanted to do. But they gave me a good living allowance to cover any expenses associated with that. So I didn't actually rent a place. I decided 5 years what I'd be paying out a month each month for renting, it would be better if I actually bought something. And that's what I did. I bought a house inside Pattaya, pretty close to the city centre. I set myself up there, which worked out quite well. Now let me go back to talking about this Thai director for a little bit. He used to come and visit regularly. Where the factory was situated, he had other businesses in that area, and he used to come down from Bangkok regularly to visit them, and he would also make a point, quite understandably, to come and see how we were doing as well. Now, quite quickly after we started, I was watching how this was operating, obviously, and I noticed that the Thai people were not working as I would want them to work. For instance, they were coming to work in flip-flops in a factory where there were a lot of heavy machinery and a lot of equipment getting moved around. I wasn't happy about that. I also wasn't happy that they were working sometimes 5 or 6 meters above the ground with no safety harnesses or anything in the flip-flops. So if something happened, it could be serious. So one of the first things I done was I got them safety harnesses. So the ones that were working at height could hook onto something, and they were safe. I had also talked with Cobb about getting everyone buying everyone safety boots. So if anything fell in the feet of that, then they would be protected. Well, I could see Cobb's face not so happy about that, and when I asked her why, she said, well, she didn't think the Thai people, the big bosses, the director, would be very happy about that. And then I found out why. When he came down the next day, he came in and he saw these people working at a height with these harnesses on, and he asked the accounts people how much these harnesses had cost, and they cost about, from memory, something like about $100 and something each. And he was not a happy guy. I'd bought 6 of them. He was not a happy guy, and he got me and he said, Mr. Sandy, he said, why did you buy these harnesses? I said, well, because they're working at height, and if something happened and they fall, they could be seriously hurt. And he said, what he said to me, I'll never forget. He said, people are expendable. They're cheap and we can replace them easy. You know, I didn't like what he said, but I also kind of detected he wasn't only talking about them, he was maybe talking about me also. In fact, I think that was his inference. And before his departure, he also confirmed with Cobb and the office staff that we were not to buy safety boots for the workers. Well, at that time then, I really knew where I stood with this guy. We were completely different from different areas of the world, and different practices, and they weren't much into the safety aspects as I was used to working in other areas. So I just had to accept that really at that time. Although I did mention it to to John in Australia on the phone, as did the Thai director from Bangkok. So anyway, we're full into manufacture and life was looking very, very good. At least that's what I thought. And it was 1997 when things began to change. And that's where the story really comes back to at the airport. We noticed that the Thai baht was starting to struggle for whatever reasons, mostly political, I think, and it was starting to lose a little bit of its value. And at that time, it was pinned to the US dollar. And it was pinned at 44 baht to 1 US dollar. And that's the factor that I'd used for everything, for pricing, for buying materials and wages and everything. I was working to 44 bahts to 1 US dollar. But then one day I got a phone call from the Australian embassy or consulate, maybe one or the other. And they told me that if I had any significant holdings of Thai baht, then I should get them transferred into dollars, US dollars, as quickly as possible, because the following day, the link to the dollar was coming off and the Thai baht was likely to crash. So we always held a lot of Thai currency, mainly because the majority of the Thai workers I had there were paid weekly. Only the senior staff were paid monthly. So we always needed a lot of cash on hand to pay the workers on the shop floor weekly. But I didn't know, they had about 3 days to go before they were due to be paid, and I didn't know how serious the collapse the next day was going to be. So I got Cobb. The other thing the Australian consulate told me, don't tell anybody about this. It's been given to them confidentially and it's got to remain confidential. So anyway, I got Cobb to go to the bank with all our baht and one of the account staff. They went down to the bank and they bought dollars. And I could see the concern in Cobb's face. She didn't ask me why I got to do it. I said, just please do as I tell you. It's important. I said, you'll find out soon why. Well, they went down and they changed it. They came back fine. And as was predicted, the next morning, the Thai baht collapsed. It went from 44, it kept going up, went 60, 70, 80, all in one day. And there was one day it actually got to 90 something baht, nearly 100 baht to the dollar. And then the World Bank stepped in and took control. But it was a significant difference to what we've been working at anyway. And it gave me some real headaches about, I was getting phone calls from suppliers saying that they could no longer supply at our orders that I placed at the prices they had quoted. And they weren't going to supply. So it was causing big problems. I got on the phone to John in Australia. I briefed him about it all, and he understood. He got on the phone then to the directors in Bangkok, and then he phoned me back and he said, okay, I'm coming up to Thailand to have a meeting with them. I want you to pick me up at the airport tomorrow morning, and I will and book me a hotel in Bangkok, and book yourself as well, because you'll be coming to the meeting, and we'll have dinner together in the evening. So, okay, so I done all that, and the next day I went to pick him up at the airport as arranged, and took him to his hotel so he could freshen up, and then we went to the meeting in the offices in Bangkok. Now, when we got there, we all went through into the reception area, and there was some talking going on. I could sense something wasn't quite right then, and then the top director's PA came up to me. She said, "Mr. Sandy," she says, "you're not going to be needed at this meeting. This is only for directors." Really? I found that hard to understand how that could possibly be, as I was the one that was running the whole show down there, and knew how everything was affected. But John says to me, "Sandy, just go back to the hotel. I'll meet you back there, and we'll talk about it then." I wasn't happy about that, you know. I went outside and I thought about it, and I thought, well, I guess it's their box of toys, so they can play with it as they like, and it's going to affect them badly, not so much me. Well, it was going to affect me badly, much more than I ever thought was going to happen to me. I was getting into a very, very bad situation quickly that we'll come to. So when I met up with John later on in the evening and he came back to the hotel, he explained to me that they were going to put the company into hibernation, close down all activities, finish off what orders that could be finished off, and then I would be released, my contract would be cancelled. And that was, I could see that coming already, and yes, I was very disappointed. Just when I thought I was on a high in life, here it was going to go downhill very quickly. So we had the dinner, etc. And then during dinner, John got a message from a phone call from the directors in Bangkok, said they needed another urgent meeting first thing in the morning. Something's come up. And would he bring me as well? Oh, what's happened, I thought. What's going to happen? So we went there in the morning. It transpired, they told us they just received an urgent communique from Sudan. And Sudan wanted a lot of equipment that we manufactured, very much, a really big order they wanted, and we were to quote for it, and I needed to make the quotes out, etc. And cut a long story short, we got a contract, many millions of US dollars. It changed the whole face of things really well. Instead of the directors losing money if the company had to close down, they could walk away with good money in addition. So the next day we went back down to the factory, myself and John, and he came to look around, etc. And we talked about, he helped me work out all the details we needed to quote this contract. And I didn't say anything to John, but the more I thought about it, the more suspicion I got. How could this contract suddenly appear right after the devaluation and be a miracle? And then I'm starting to think something that Cobb said to me about Witcher making all the copies of the drawings and the technical specs and all the rest of it. But what Witcher had never done, he had never put together quotations, and he didn't know how to work out how the materials needed, etc. That was all my job. And I began to suspect that maybe, just maybe, they had known about this possibility of this contract for a while, but they hadn't been telling anybody. I'm working out, I was very suspicious then. and working out how they could probably edge a lot of this money away instead of having to share it with Australia, etc. Because it was a lot of money. And I'm still convinced to this day something like that was afoot. And indeed, what happened to me after that, I think it kind of proves my point. So, cutting a long story short again, we went into this, fulfilling this contract, working very hard. I spent many hours burning the candles at night, working it all out and planning it and getting all the technical aspects right. And so we could start very quickly on this. One of the points in this also is that I had to deal with all the suppliers. And the biggest supplier in materials wise for this contract was going to be the supplier of specialized steel that we need, high grade steel. And I already had one supplier for that, and I needed to talk with them, etc. So I did that, and it transpired it was going to be a lot of money, and we'd have to stage the payments out in accordance with the delivery schedules, etc. So what I agreed with them is that we would work on 6 shipments of material, and against each shipment I would give them a check predated that they could cash in after the delivery of the materials. So that was a very common way of doing business in Thailand, and it probably still is now actually. But so I got 6 predated checks, and I gave them it, and so we were rolling with that. But because of the prices and the economic upheaval, etc., the lady that run this steel company, very clever lady, she wanted additional security, and what she wanted was my passport, because she was depending on my word. Well, normal situation, I would never give a passport to anybody, but in this occasion I did. And the reason I did is I had 2 passports, and I've always had 2 passports. And this comes back from my military days, where quite often I was traveling to some place when I was needing to apply for a visa to go somewhere else while I was away. So I'd organized that I have 2 passports. And after I'd left the Navy, I had maintained that, and it's come in handy many times actually over the period. And even to this day, I still got the 2 passports. But anyway, okay, I give them 1 passport as security. She was happy. She dealt with me before, so it was just an added bit of security because of the financial aspects of the contract. I am coming to the big point. So to fulfill this contract, I had estimated we could do it in 9 months. If we worked two shifts in the factory, we could have it all done and dusted, the contract finished. So that's what we done. We split the working day into 2 shifts. I would handle the day shift and quite often a couple of hours of the evening shift as well, where the trainee engineer, he would take care of the second shift that went on to, I think, about 10 o'clock at night. So that's how it worked. And it worked out very well, actually. And I could see that we were going to we should meet the deadlines quoted, the 9 months I had said it could be completed, and we were very close to being able to do that. So when all the production was virtually completed, and we started arranging, boxing everything up to ship it out, we shipped it out from a local port, Liam Shabang, which is not far from Pattaya either. I realized that once this all went on the boat to go to Sudan, it was going to be a 4-week transit apparently. And then once it's arrived, they were going to start sending teams out. I said, well, that's 4 weeks. That is going to be very quiet here. And it's a good opportunity for me to have a break. Perfect. So I talked to John Australia. I said, listen, when all that's shipped down to go on the boat, I'm going to go back to the UK for 3 weeks and have a break. And I needed a break at that time. So no problem for him, and he said he would tell that not for me to talk to the Thai director in Bangkok. He already knew that the things between myself and this guy in Bangkok were not great. So to stop him shouting at me, John would tell him that I'm going on holiday. And I thought, well, he's probably going to be very happy with that anyway. But having got John's approval, I then went and bought 2 business class tickets returned for myself and my girlfriend Tick, and we were all ready to go on holiday when the stuff went to the docks. And it was a Sunday evening actually. We caught a taxi up to Bangkok airport, and this is where it all started to go wrong. We went up, we got to the airport, I went up to the desk. I gave the lady our 2 passports. Tick's passport was on top, the Thai passport, and my UK passport was underneath. When I gave them to the girl at the desk, KLM Dutch Airlines, I saw she only briefly glimpsed at the Thai passport, put that down and opened my UK passport. And I saw her look at it, look at me, look at it, and I could tell that something wasn't quite right what she did, because normally they go straight to the computer and start putting it in and looking for your name on the computer. But she didn't do that, and instead I seen her look round at a group of guys that were standing quite close to the counter, and she gave a slight nod of her head, and then everything went chaotic. One of these guys came up to me, took the passport from the girl at the desk, opened it up, showed me my picture, and it said, "Is this you?" I said, "Yes, obviously it's me, I've just given it to the girl." He said, "Okay." So then from his pocket, he brought out another passport, another British passport, opened up, my image. He said, "Is that you?" I said, "Yes, that's me." My spare passport that I'd given to the lady in the steel company. He said, "Okay, you're under arrest for," I don't think he said the charge, just said, "You're under arrest." And he also arrested Tick as well. And they come and put handcuffs on us, took our bags and took us out of the airport. Outside there was a patrol car and a police pickup, one of these big ones with a space cab on it. And I was put inside the cab, sitting in the back seat, sitting between 2 policemen, and these things are kind of cramped anyway. Poor Tick, they put her in the back of the pickup, sitting in the outside in the back. There's a policeman with her as well, and she's in handcuffs as well. And as we started to pull away from the airport, it was pouring with rain. And I thought, oh, I hope we're not going too far. So I said to the guy, because I could speak Thai quite well, and I asked him, I said, "Well, where are we going? Are we going into Bangkok?" He said, "No, we're going back down to Rayong, to Map to Put, where the company was virtually based, and where this lady in the steel was." So we're going to Map to Put police station. And then on the way down, I heard him phone this lady. I heard a female voice, and I kind of put it 2 and 2 together. And he said, "We've got them, and we're on our way down to Map to Put police station, and you have to come and identify him when we arrive there." So anyway, it was about a 2-hour drive, and we were down in Map to Put, and it was still heavy rain. And they got us out the pickup and took out the back, and oh, she looked like a drone. I felt so sorry for her. And they took us into the police station, put us in this room, and about 15 minutes later, this lady from the steel works came up and to identify us. That was the start of the big trouble. And in the next video, which is going to be in the next day or 2, I'm going to tell you about what happened at the police station and how long I spent in jail there and the consequences of it all. So if you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please leave a comment or 2, and make sure you don't miss the next one. Subscribe and ring the bell, and I'd be very appreciative of that. So thank you for now. Take care.